And we're live. All right.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Give everybody a minute to get in here.
Okay.
To go through the notes tonight. Double show tonight. A little double entendre.
Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow's
day 2. You think it'll be over tomorrow?
Yes. By the schedule, it must be. I have some info on that too, which I will give. Okay. 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 Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Hey.
I'm sorry about earlier. It's been a day, and it's been an interesting day. So I know not as many are over my head again. You know what, Holly? I'm going to demand of you, because I know you are so neutral and fair. Tonight, after I saw what the family went through, we're not having any shenanigans tonight. Sorry. So just bounce, and I did it, and you guys can rate me later. So just be nice and kind tonight, because
what shenanigans are we talking?
I cried today. I can tell you I cried today. So
it's got to be rough for the family to hear a bunch of BS about Forrest.
They were crying. I saw tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were listening to Forrest raping a woman and still being alive. And here's what Carl said. But Zoe gave the deposition of her seeing her father's dead body. Did that not? Oh, no, she's lying.
And the death certificate's just fake, and it's all. Well, it's like I said it earlier. You probably didn't hear it, but I was like, he's delusional. All these people who think.
And I won't even go into his state. I will just say, and that's what I want to go through is only, I'm not going to make any speculation. I am going to go over the facts of the case. I got a 50-page, and every single page is filled. Plus I started going on the back, and I got about 4 pages. 3 pages in. So I have 53 pages of notes. Bobby Brass, can you please describe the mood in the courtroom? I will say in the morning argument or morning session, and then I'm going to just get into notes and really walk through it. The beginning, Carl is a litigator. He was very intense. I think he was very, the judge was extremely kind and patient. He had to remind Mccracken, I have to go by the rules of the court, even though you're not familiar with them, because most of the objections were sustained on the estate's behalf. By the afternoon, I won't say it got comical, but it got ridiculous, where the courtroom actually laughed at points where they were really dark moments, but they were such ridiculous claims. I'll give you an example, and I'll go over the notes in a second. So how do you know Forrest Fenn is alive and is raping a woman? Well, the woman had a bikini on, and when she turned around, I saw her butt.
That was the answer?
That was the answer. And the entire room snickered, but then Zoe was crying, and it was like, I mean, we're looking at each other like, what did that even mean? And then it moved. It was really hard to hear because it was so ridiculous.
Well, that's what I don't understand, why this was allowed in at a trial, a probate case. If I ever talked to Carl, I know. If I ever talked to Carl, I'd be like, how did it ever get this far? I don't understand that. I don't understand how the judge would allow any crazy claim that has no proof to get in. I don't get it. But apparently something's going on, because you're right. We're not lawyers. We don't know how it works. But
yeah, so the big important thing to me, and I was frivolous. I mean, my hand is broken. It was all day long, 56 pages of notes. And you can just see it was, I mean, notes after notes. I mean, page after page after page. And I believe this is going to be old news by tomorrow. The case is going to be finished by tomorrow. And I want this detail out because I think it's so important. We're going to have a court document that'll be out probably in the next 10 days or so. I want you to know I'm in such a different place right now. And I want to apologize to the family for how much I was in searcher mode of getting closure to, you had 9 people unite together. They all sat on. So let me talk about that. So, Okay, I just want to start because I'm a little bit all over the
just go through it.
So the docket call was at 8:30. At 8:25, Mccracken arrives, and he had one small briefcase, and he walked in. At 8:26, Greg and his girlfriend arrived. He was very friendly, sat down. We were social distance, but in our area, kind of asking questions. He looked sharp. They were nicely dressed like all of us were, and pleasant in conversation. At 8:28, Zoe and Shiloh walked by. Shiloh looked so, I thought it was actually Zoe's husband, but Zoe is so petite. I would say she's like Cynthia's height, maybe 5'2", and Shiloh's maybe 6'2". And so you could just tell the presence of Shiloh, but Zoe is such a mama bear. But there was just a sadness that I had. And then at 8:35, Kelly came over and actually talked to Cynthia for a little bit, and discussed how hard it was for the family. And I'm just going to leave it at that because that's not I overheard, but it's not my message to tell. And then at 8:42, Toby came in and sat with us. And then at 8:51, because we were right next to the elevator, here comes Carl, and he had a wagon, kind of like one of those beach wagons or kid wagons. And I'm sorry, I'm not watching the chat. I'm just going to plow through this. Mm-hmm. And so he had a wagon, and he had two people behind him with binders and laptops. And his wagon had, I saw a TTOTC, Once Upon a While, Too Far to Walk. He had two big boxes of binders. And then he was walking in like he was ready for war. And it was really interesting. He did wave at us, and he did say hi to Greg, and they had a brief, just couple words. And then at 8:56, so we started walking because we knew it started at 9. And then there was kind of a barrage of people. I think it was about 7 of them. I was right at the door. I stepped back because I knew it was the family, and there was the family side. And then I'll just say the other side. I know some people had issues of sitting on that side because we did not want to portray it that we were there in favor of Mccracken's side. We were there in favor of the estate side, but there was only so many seats. So the family sat on the other side, or the family side. And there were 7 of them. Some were friends. And we even have seating charts and stuff, but that doesn't even matter. They were there as a united front. So you had Zoe that actually sat on the other side of the bench with Carl, and Carl had 2 like paralegals, and on the other side was Mccracken by himself. He had no witnesses. He had no other person there with him. Let's see. So then the family entered. They all sat on that side. Shiloh did wave to both Cynthia and I. We did get a talk with them. We did take some pictures. I'll talk about that in a minute. There was on our side one reporter that was there. And so 9:01, they did what's called the docket call. The judge asked who was in appearance. It was Carl and Zoe and the paralegals, and Mccracken had Mccracken. So it was Mccracken versus the estate. And the judge was clear about process. He did say he understands that there is a pro se in Mccracken, but he had to hold to the letter of the law, the process of the law. So he was going to give Mccracken, he was very patient, some reminders, but he did have to hold him to the process of law. So let's see. Both gave their opening statement. Carl, okay, so before that, they said opening statements, and Carl said, well, we have some exhibits that we have objections to on both sides, and they are not in agreement, even though the vast majority they did agree to. Mccracken outlined which ones he had issues with. The estate outlined which ones Mccracken had issues with. And the judge said, let's wait until we get that part. You can go over why you think it is admissible. I will give the other side an option to say why you think it's inadmissible or should be put in, and then I'll give a ruling. So Mccracken, let's see, went over those. Everything else was a part of file that the judge had. So the judge had a copy as well. So there's basically 3 sets of binders, exhibit binders. And so the judge had one, the Mccracken had one, and Carl had one. Mike, stop me if you need me to stop at any moment. I'm literally on page 1 still.
No, you're good.
Okay. Carl did say he was waiting on a witness, which he may need to step out for if time would allow, because the judge, because it's somebody he hadn't met and he needed to get into the witness list. So that, of course, the buzz is that Jack? I knew it wasn't Jack, but it was going to get interesting who it was, and you'll see who it was, because wow, his testimony kind of rocked the world. Okay, let me get to page 2. So, okay, so Mccracken gave his opening. He said in good faith he was cheated out of the treasure chest. As a last resort, he tried to complete the endeavor, and he hopes he will be awarded the treasure chest, or the value of the treasure chest. It was less than 30 seconds, the opening, and then Carl went to his opening. He says, this is a case about a treasure hunter that failed in recovering the chest. It was recovered somewhere in Wyoming. The book TTOTC, the poem The Clues, invited everyone to be a part. There was hundreds of thousands of searchers. Whoever finded it needed to take it. Mccracken's position, you'll hear later, he found it, but he didn't retrieve it, and that's why he should get it, because he found it before Jack did, in a different state with many different souls. The evidence will show that Mccracken claimed within a couple of weeks he flew in from the UK, and he did not have TTOTC. He did not have much else, and he had solved the Forrest Fenn poem. For 6 years, he continued to search, as he thought Forrest had continued to move the treasure chest. Forrest Fenn died, and that is when he then said an extortion plot had been hatched, that he then said Forrest was raping a woman. He does not believe the woman will be testifying for Mccracken. He had sworn statements that this woman did not even know Forrest. That was his basis of his counterclaim, because there's no basis, and you can't use the legal process by trying to discover. You can't make statements, and you can't extort. So his intent would be to show that his list of witnesses, there will not be one that will show up in his opinion, even though up until yesterday, Mccracken asserted that he would have witnesses. He will not say anything. Mccracken will not say anything in the story that will actually be supported by evidence. It'll be conjecture in his opinion only. And so, unfortunately, go Mccracken. Brent, you're a little off, dude. So he said that this will be a very bizarre story, extreme story. There's a lot of allegations, but Forrest being alive, Forrest stalking someone, Forrest Fenn raping and stalking and threatening a person. You will see no actual evidence. And he was extorting up until yesterday, $5 to $10 million, or he would come out with this evidence, and the evidence will fail to prove anything that he is saying. And so when he says something like, I have witnesses and I have evidence that is going to prove that, that's actually extortion. If you say, give me $5 million or I will defame your family, he believes that is actually criminally neglectful. So that was the opening statements. Okay, questions before we get into the first witness?
I was just going to say, who was that first witness? Yeah, go ahead. This is Carl's witness?
No, Mccracken gets to go first.
Oh, and he had somebody show up.
Oh, no. Mccracken called himself.
Oh, I see. Of course he did. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah. And if you did read over the summary of law and finding of facts, he basically went through that in detail, but I'm going to go over it in detail just to be thorough and appropriate. This is only factual. Okay, and stop me anytime again, Mike, because I'm going to kind of pontificate here. So Mccracken was sworn in. He said he is both the witness and attorney, and this is very difficult, the judge said, because you basically what Mccracken was going to be doing is pontificating. He doesn't have to ask a question and answer it or pretend like he's two different people, but there would be times that Carl would object and he would just need to stop talking at that point. So that is when Mccracken began, and he basically went through that 20-page document. So here's what he said. He said he took the witness stand, and he was difficult to hear. I don't think his his fault. We actually had to break because he broke so many masks. He was just trying, and he already had an accent. He's soft spoken.
Everybody had to wear a mask?
Yes, we all had to wear a mask.
Oh.
In the courtroom. Outside the courtroom, we did not. And his mask made his soft-spokenness even more soft-spoken. He had an accent. His mask was there. He kept shoving. So we actually had to stop the proceedings a couple of times, or at least once. I'll get into that because I just took notes as I went. So he said during the spring of 2014, he sought out on an adventure of this treasure hunt hidden somewhere north of Santa Fe. He did stumble upon Dale Neitzel's website. He said Exhibit 1 was a copy of Dale Neitzel's website that he took down after the chase had ended, but he went through the Wayback Machine. The first page, Forrest confirms that if you find it, you get to keep it. He did a background check on Forrest. He found out that he was wealthy. He was motivated to make a name for himself. His father had not been popular, and he believed Forrest was actually trying to do a good deed. And this is when Carl objected and said he is talking to Forrest's state of mind. And Mccracken gave some nonsense, and it was sustained. So that comment about Forrest's state of mind was stricken from the record. He said he thought the chase would be safe because Forrest said so. He brought in Exhibit 2, where he published a book, and Dale had published on his website. The first task was to take this poem and extract the 9 clues. And Mccracken did within a month's time. And the poem said, "I give you title to the gold." And this was a place, he thought the critical piece that he understood was, it was a place that Forrest could throw his body on, because that was the initial plan. He put in time and investment. And again, it was somewhere that Forrest could throw his bones on top of the chest when he was dying. You're going to see why that's important later. He needed the location to be large enough for Forrest's body, and animals could not take the bones and run off with them. Again, that'll become important later. After 2 weeks, he was in the UK. Between Google Earth, he felt he had a solve. It fit like a glove. It was the solve. So the court reporter and the judge were a little confused about what solve meant. It was a little bit of kind of a foreign language when we talk about boots on the ground, solve, chase, etc. Carl did a very good job and explained what a solve is actually a solution to the 9 hints in the poem that takes you to the treasure chest location. So there was a little bit of a sidebar, if you will, as they went into that. He said he used the solve, creating the solve in a variety of methods. He took quotes and he said, for example, Forrest said, "You need to marry the clues to the location." So he knew he was looking for physical locations to a map. Google Earth can't help you with the last clue, so he needed to go boots on the ground to find it. He put in Exhibit 4, and you're going to see all of these in the record later. Do you need me to stop for anything, Mike?
There's a question. It's not a jury of 12. It's just a judge, right?
It's a bench trial, which a bench trial means it's only the judge. And I guess that's very common in, or almost exclusive in probate, because we are in probate court. So there was no jury. There was only a judge and a court reporter. And I will say MVP is the court reporter. She did such a good job. If there was a tip jar, I'd be giving her a tip. She had a challenging situation and she did a really good job. Everyone did, but she really did.
Well, okay. I would just say, and you can read everything you want to read, but I would just say I don't really care about Mccracken's case because it doesn't make any sense anyway. I'm more interested in what Carl said as far as the emails and stuff. But if you want to go through it, I'll go ahead. It's just
and the reason that I think it's important to do it, even though it's painful, I'm not going to make you watch all the Alita movie references, and they went on in great detail, and I got to see a lot of the Alita movie. I don't have them, so I'm not going to make you do that. But many of the questions that later Carl asked are in relation to his solve and why. And then he compared him to Jack, and then he went into all of Jack's emails. There will be such a missing piece otherwise. If you're watching this later, you can zoom through the first beginning part and not even get into this. This was the first, I would say, 3 hours of the court hearing. So I know what you're saying, Mike, but I think this is important to me. Okay. So Exhibit 5, he demonstrated that Wormwood Water's halt is the first clue, and he used the New Mexico fishing regulations.
Okay. Well, it's not that crazy.
Yeah. So then he went into Exhibit 6, which was the map of north of Santa Fe, and he was then at El Vado. That's a location I have searched before. And he went into, by definitions, what warm waters and the trout waters, and he went into all of that. Go to Gypsy's Kiss; they had that as their WWWH. In more detail, you can see there. He picked the area. El Vado turns hot to cold. And then you get to Canyon Down. And then he said, you go to not far but too far to walk, and you actually have to pull out Not Far but Too Far to Walk, or Too Far to Walk, the second memoir that was published in 2013. And that's when you find out it was 10 miles from WWWH. The final location is 10 miles from the second book. That is where you deciphered that in 2013. He went into Exhibit 7. And he actually showed the preface of Too Far to Walk. And he says that's where he actually read the part that says 10 miles. And he gave a link to the solution. His home of Brown is El Vado Ranch. And there is a pinup of the home of Brown trout, which is a trophy fish that is at El Vado Ranch. I guess this was also Toby's solve as well. It was a record trout pinned onto the wall. Exhibit 9 is the Rio Chama BLM land. Put in was where the rafts put in at El Vado Ranch. Next, there was no place for the meek, is where you go downstream, and at El Vado Ranch. And Exhibit 10 is the winding river, which you can actually see from Google Earth. Then he said there was a biblical reference of meek is where you inherit the earth. Go look that up. I didn't write down the scripture. He went into scripture for a little bit. The next clue is end is drawing nigh. The definition of nigh is left. His first solve, and you're going to see later, he had 4 solves, even though he was sure after the first one, but then it turned into the 4th one because Forrest moved it 3 different times on him. His first solve is where nigh means left, because he looked it up in a dictionary. So at least for his first solve, he's on the left side. Later, he will go to the right. Exhibit 11, you pass the river and you go eastward direction, put in at the end. Exhibit 12, you answer the next clue and he'll paddle up your creek. And he actually showed a picture of the creek. Then you go down east and down that stretch, Origan's Creek. You can't go up it because it's dry and only spring fed, and the ground is porous. You go up that creek, and Exhibit 13 showed the answer to heavy loads and water high. I didn't get waters high. I was riding as fast as I could, but the large boulders were the heavy loads. Cynthia actually wrote down the same thing as me. We both missed those. The creek from there on Google Earth is where you have to investigate the area. He went to the area. He flew in from the UK. He has a place in Florida and flew in to New Mexico, and he found a fallen tree. The fallen pine tree looked like an owl. It had everything: 2 eyes, a beak, and a feathered body. And he showed a picture of it. Is Exhibit 14. He was convinced that wise meant it looked like an owl from Google Earth.
Did it look like an owl to you, Kpro?
I will try to keep my opinions out, but it would use too much imagination for me to believe that was the case. But I know some people are really into like looking at rock formations and things. So could it be? Sure. To me, it was not. So we went into why that part of the poem went into past tense, because you had to know about this owl from Google Earth prior. He didn't find the owl, but if you didn't find the owl, you don't find the blaze. So you have to be wise. So April of 2014, he went to the exact location of the owl. Exhibit 15, there was a tree. He put in the tree fallen picture. Exhibit 16, the blaze on the tree. He believed the blaze was a carved piece that looked like a key. The key had a rounded head. Forrest said Carl said objection. How did he know? It was an intricate design that was hand hand carved. And that was sustained. Mccracken gave some response because, oh, it's logical or something, some nonsense. And again, Carl prevailed. If he found the blaze, he found it through a metal detector, but it didn't ping. So he said he knew he was close, but then he needed to do more work, he said. So he went down the mountain, down that south, Exhibit 17, there was a blaze, another 100 yards down, and Exhibit 18, there was a picture of the spot. Then he went into Exhibit 19, and there was his now famous rabbit hole. He believes that's where Forrest hid the chest. It was basically like a rock formation, and it had an 8-inch crevice that, because Forrest was skinny, he could get into. 8 inches. 8 inches. That's about 8 inches. Forrest could jimmy himself in there, but Mccracken was not that skinny. You'll see in a minute why that's important. Only skinny and children could solve this poem. Or anyway, we'll get into it in a second. He had a small kitty metal detector. He put the head of the metal detector into the rabbit hole that went. So it was like a rock formation that had a hole in it, and he put it down there, and he did get a ping, but it was only partially down the hole. At the time, he was cautious because it was too tight. There were snakes, he thought, perhaps in there, and he couldn't even get a really good look inside. So he duct taped his smartphone to a pole, and he put the smartphone and hit video and put it down into the crevice. Exhibit 20, he showed the video. We did have to break because he said he didn't have enough time. One of the rules of the court was that you had to work with the IT department, so it didn't delay time. He said he didn't have time to do that, so they actually broke and let him work with the IT department to be able to play the video. He had a USB drive. He did show his background. That was Alita. If you don't know, Alita is a kind of younger girl robot movie. Hey, do you know Alita?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it, but yeah.
I've seen most of the movie now. Jesus. Okay, so we took a short recess. When we came back, Carl's witness had arrived. He said he was a state trooper police officer, so he needed to go talk to him for a moment. So we knew a police officer was going to be the witness. Exhibit 20, the video was shown. This video went down, and there was a lot of brown rocks, brown dirt. So he wanted that as part of the record. At a certain point, the video stops, and there is a brown object behind a stone, and there was a still shot. The still shot went back, and Exhibit 21 was the still shot. And he said was the treasure chest. Carl objected and said that's speculation because that's obviously not a treasure chest. It might be in the general shape, and you can say it's an object, but you can't say it's the treasure chest. And that was sustained under speculation. Exhibit 22, he used a brightness filter to show the contrast that the shape was square. He believes the same square as the treasure chest. So that proved it was the treasure chest. Another objection. He cannot use the word treasure chest. He could say an object or a square object, and that was sustained. So he said not only was it the same object, it had a rounded foot, and the profile matched the chest. The judge let him know you can say all of those things, but you cannot say this is a treasure chest because it was, I think how Dale put it, a large brown lump. It was more conjecture or speculation that it was the actual treasure chest. So the judge did not allow that in. That is going to be objected to many times. And finally, the judge is going to say, anytime you say it from here forward, we're just going to take it off record. He believed that the lid actually showed overhanging, but it was very blurry. Again, and because it was the treasure chest. So there was another objection. You cannot say treasure chest. Again, as long as then the judge said, can you just say it's your opinion it's the treasure chest? So he was trying to kind of help him. And that actually, Jamie actually prevailed because he said, in my opinion, kind of like what we do here all of the time. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. Do you need anything, Mike, before I keep going?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Exhibit 22. He was worried that he was going to get trapped in the hole, snakes. So he emailed Forrest that he had found the chest and he was coming back in 1 week to actually get it with a friend. He was going to send the friend down the rabbit hole because he was too scared and had too short of arms. And there's a few things you'll see in a second. So Exhibit 24, emails between Forrest and Mccracken. I found the huge owl. The response, and I found the treasure chest. And Forrest's response was, if you know you found it, go and get it. And his response was, Forrest was just plain hard to get. There's a few snickers in the courtroom. And then he went into a variety of scrapbooks that were, Forrest is only talking to me. So there was scrapbook 61 in April of 2014 that claimed that there was a log, a deep thinking treasure hunter can use logic. If you can actually figure it out and actually be skinny enough to fit in the hole. He's going to assert later, only skinny people and children can find the treasure chest, and you'll see why in a minute. It's not what they whisper. He believes the whisper was related to the rabbit hole. I don't quite understand that one, but that's what he said. Exhibit 26, his plan had been to duct tape the phone to the pole, and he told him what he found. And somehow in this scrapbook, it was, and the brightness filter, that was the copy of the email. Exhibit 27, he said he found out what happened. He got inside because he went back to the location a week later, and he had to chisel it out. And then he went in there, and the treasure chest or brown lump was gone. So he said he knows that Forrest went there, because it was only 8 inches big and Forrest was so skinny, he actually went in, didn't disturb it, and was able to extract the treasure chest and move it. Mccracken was very angry and emailed him, give me the chest. He was unhappy that he moved it. He made perhaps some threats or some very aggressive language. Forrest said, get yourself a good lawyer. There were more emails, and those went back and forth. He believed Forrest gave a clue that said a child could go and get it, and that's why the only people that could actually go get it were skinny people or children. They were the only ones that could fit in this nook. He broke his third mask maybe, and so we had to take a 15-minute break because the judge said this is a federal ruling. We have to wait. How much? Showing the emails along with the dates. Why I must go, those are going to be in the court record. I did my best to you will actually see every single email. Every single email that was read in court will be as an exhibit document, read with all headers and all information attached.
And according to Harry, he's posting it all on his website. So we'll see.
Yeah. And so I think there's 12 emails that Jack actually says, Yellowstone, 9 Mile Hole, 9 Mile Hole, 9 Mile Hole. Now, some people might not believe it, and Mccracken doesn't. If you believe, well, let's keep going, and I'll just, and again, Mike, stop me if you need me to. Mm-hmm. He said there was 4 different spots, and oh, this is where we went on break. This is where Shiloh took a picture and he had the belt buckle. We asked him about the bracelet, and here's what he said. I could have worn the bracelet today, but I don't want to celebrate today. This has been very hard on my family. I don't want this to be a moment that I'm going to do something like that. That should be a celebration and a positive because our family has that. So yeah. So
to confirm, Shiloh does have the bracelet.
I can confirm Shiloh said he had the bracelet. I didn't see it, so I can't say it exactly. Exhibit 30, I'm going to tell you right now, there's 88 exhibits. We're on number 30. He went more into, he believed that Forrest gave him a veiled death threat because when he said, I can't believe you moved it, I can't believe you moved it, he said, listen for footsteps behind you. He said that was a death threat. There was an objection to that and it was sustained. Exhibit 31, Forrest confirmed the poem was straightforward. He felt that his solve was straightforward, no mental gymnastics, and more evidence of why his solve was the case. He presented then in Exhibit 32, tight focus with a word that is key. His blaze was a key, so that was a nod to him. Forrest he believed, talking with him in a significant way in most of these scrapbooks. God, this is painful. Do you want me to keep going like this? We have 58 more of these to go.
I'm not interested in it. I really don't think people are either. But I mean, it's just crazy stuff. So, you know.
Yeah. So let me hit the highlights because I actually starred some things. And you'll see all these exhibits very soon with actual emails, etc. And then I want to get into when the estate actually said Yellowstone 9 Mile Hole. Like, I mean, they said it so many different ways.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah. So Forrest is talking to him. All the scrapbooks are about him. Scrapbooks are about him. It's all about him. Okay. So basically Forrest kept moving it on him and he kept excavating. He bought chisels. He bought lots of different tools. He tried to admit some things on the blogs that was dismissed. There was a scrapbook with a dog. He saw a dog print near his solve. So then he, after several times of it moving, he asked Forrest if he could come to his home and he was invited in. We found out later he was actually not invited in. The gate was open. So he said, Forrest, I've run out of money. I would like you to loan me money. And Forrest said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You need to find it on your own means. But Forrest did suggest to him to live off of wild berries if he needed food, which I thought there was a little bit of snicker in the courtroom. He did get into that he was Harry. He went by John Smith on the blogs as well. He didn't want anybody to know his name. So then this is the part that got, I don't know, challenging to sit through. He had scrapbooks that would say something like cut in 5 pieces. And then he would show an Alita video where Alita, when she was battling with this demon thing, got cut into 5 pieces and then restored. It's a robot. And he went into these Alita. Greg, I will say, was very professional because there was a lot of snickering. I think he was ready to pop. So he left.
And the judge, that's what I was getting at. The judge allowed all that? Like
it was very minimal, but it was hard. Like this was like uncut. And if you've sat on these benches, it is a hard wooden bench. It was difficult to sit through. Clearly there is someone being paid off. Yes, Mccracken believes that. So I think Troy and Mccracken are exactly on the same page. So it sounds like there's still a few people like that. I'm just not one of those people. And he actually goes into paid actors. So you guys can, so he goes into movie clip. I know more about Alita than I've ever known. Then he went into emails with Dale. He actually said, Forrest, I'm now going to go to Stephanie and Dale, the 2 major sites, and I'm going to tell them, and this is going to destroy you. And that's how he worded it. I'm going to destroy you. He sent it to Dale, and Dale's response, again, I'm going to paraphrase just because there's so many hours of notes. Basically, Dale said, I think he used the word crazy, and that's a blurry brown lump. And then his position was, well, Dale was doing a book with him. So it was going to be a hard sell. He said he began seeing Forrest out several times a week at his spot. He wasn't even disguising himself. He believes that he got a ranch just above Cheyenne's to stalk her. There was an objection to that, and it was sustained because it was only conjecture. I'm trying to zip through this part, but it'll become important later. He believed there was a scrapbook about the Rubik's Cube. He found a new blaze that he then began getting into sublazes and the sublazes of sublazes, and they had directional pieces. So he kind of changed all of that. So, okay. So let's get to, then he believed that Forrest or Jack was a paid actor. We're going to get into that in a minute. Okay, so here's where the cross-examination begins. This was probably late morning, maybe after, right before lunch. Carl came up and said, this is everything that he put out, everything. And so Carl stood up and said, if this is his entire evidence, I move for dismissal.
Right.
And the judge said, wait, why don't you cross-examine first, and then we'll get into dismissal, because all he basically went through is, I have this great solve. And it's better than everyone else's. And we know, look at some of the people in here. Everyone's a paid actor because I have the best solve. I mean, it was a little bit of nonsense. And Carl rolled with it and said, okay, let's start with the affidavits from Cheyenne and her mother. You believe Cheyenne is going to come here and testify that she's being raped by Forrest Fenn that's alive. Here is the affidavit, and let me admit this into evidence, that says they don't know Forrest Fenn. They know you, but they do not know Forrest Fenn, and they don't want to be a witness. They know nothing about this. They are done. And he believed that those were doctored documents, though they were registered with the court, and I don't know how they were stamped, notarized, etc. So she had no info, and he said, I don't know if she even signed it. And he said, so if she's coming to be a witness for you, and she's been raped by Forrest, how did you get her to come to court today? And did you subpoena her? And he said, no, he ran out of time. He thinks she'll just voluntarily come. But he did think she was going to be there. And that's when he said, I'd like to admit into evidence the restraining order she has against you for the next 40 years. And he said, why does that matter? And it was more of I think there was actually, they were talking past each other. He was saying the restraining order is only 20 years. And Jamie was like, who cares which one? And he said, you don't think it's valuable information to know that your witness actually has a restraining order against you? And he did not think that should be admissible. He said he was not going to be in court. By the way, okay, I don't know if Troy's just not feeling well tonight. Can we see the actual emails? In 10 days, you'll see the actual emails that we can order. I'm telling you what happened today, and I've said it twice, that you will see the actual emails and be able to read them word for word. I'm trying to bring this to you timely. If you ask again, I'm just going to say, kind of like Carl did, you're not understanding basic English. Let's move on. Okay.
So let me answer. Somebody had a question. Oh, Hooley says Carl can say what Jack and the family can't. I don't think Carl can say where the treasure chest was located or found. Carl can put the emails into evidence, right? Did Carl actually say it was found in 9 Mile Hole, or did he in this trial today, or did he just simply submit the emails between Forrest and Jack?
He read the emails word for word of exactly where Jack was searching in 12 different times. Mm-hmm. And gave some other evidence that I will go over.
So to answer Hooley's question, just at what you think, Kpro, I don't think, because Jack is barred from giving the location, I don't think Carl can he?
Carl can admit into evidence factual information that supports his case against Mccracken, in my opinion. I don't think he can give his opinion of where it was found. Right. And I think the family can say it and has been advised not to say anything until the probate hearing has settled, in my opinion. Okay. So then he said, let's look at Exhibit 2, TTOTC. You have to actually find and retrieve the treasure. And he did not agree. He believed that you only had to find it. You didn't have to retrieve it, because Forrest said for disabled people, he would actually retrieve it for them. There was a little bit of gasp in the courtroom because I don't remember Forrest saying, "Oh, I'll go get it for you if you're disabled." But maybe he has.
Yeah, you got to go get it.
Yeah, and this is where Carl. This is where Carl turned and said, "Well, let's see what you actually said in your deposition. Let's go to page 15, line 7. Do you believe that you actually have to find and retrieve it?" And the answer was, "Yeah, pretty much." Now you're saying something completely different. You're not allowed to do that. Which one is factual? Which one did you lie? He didn't quite say it like that. Good.
Thanks, Nora. She said, "Thank you for all you do." Thanks, Nora. Appreciate
it. He said he did not retrieve it. He did admit that in court. He never laid eyes on the treasure chest. He said, "Yeah, but I laid eyes on the video, and the video had the brown lump, and I think the brown lump was a treasure chest." And they went back and forth for a while. Answer my question. Did your eyes see the treasure chest? Well, no, but my video did. And my video is, he said, "Stop. Let me ask again." He was very patient. I think he asked it about 4 times. And then he said, "Here is TTOTC. Let's talk about that." He said, "I never bought it. I never read it. I found it." And he said, "But there were hints in the books." He said he thought they would be too difficult to find. He believed where warm waters halt was trout waters. That was fishing regulations. But he said, "That wasn't your idea. You got that from others, correct?" And he said, "Yes, he did." He really thought it was the dam at El Vado, but since Forrest ruled that out, he picked fishing regulations that kept him at the same spot. Confirmation bias. Okay.
No, some people are saying Forrest did say that, but what is that? What was it about disabled that you said?
If you're disabled, I'll go retrieve it for you.
Yeah, some people are saying Forrest did say that, so that's interesting. I don't remember.
It wasn't objected to, so they just kind of kept going.
So maybe, yeah.
I didn't remember. Yeah, maybe. And again, I'm just going by. I'm just reading facts. I'm not trying to put in any conjecture.
Right.
So he said, and then he went into. So then he said the fishing regulations, but that went with other people. You didn't. That wasn't yours. And he said, "That's correct." He went with other people's information. And then he got into a long discussion about, so you think your solution says in Too Far to Walk that it's 10 miles because of the preface. And he said, "Yes." And he said, "But that book was published in 2013. He said, "Yes." And he said, "But that means the first 3 years, people did not have all of the hints and clues." And he said, "Yes, the early searchers were disenfranchised with what he figured out. And he was convinced that the 10 miles, but he said, you didn't have that in 2010 when this launched." And he said, "Correct." And that's when everybody broke for lunch. This is when I had some discussions with Shiloh. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'll talk about that another time. That was more just conjecture stuff. Okay, not conjecture, just more pleasant discussion. I give Shiloh a lot of credit. He hung back as the family all went together to lunch. He hung back with us searchers, Cynthia and I and Toby, and chatted for a little bit. He was very, very nice. So we came back. So the judge said, "I only have a 50 or a 30-minute hearing that I have to put in. So we're actually coming back in the afternoon. We thought we were breaking out for the day." Oh, no, we didn't. We had 4 or 5 more hours. So when we came back, it was now 1:45. Carl said, he said, "Let's bring Jamie back up for cross-examination." And he said, "I have a state police officer here that's come from where Cheyenne lives, which is several hours out. We want him to be able to get home in an appropriate time. And he's injured. Is it okay if we take him out of turn?" Mccracken very nicely said, "I did not object to that." And so he took the stand. So Carl asked him back and forth, but I'm going to kind of zip through this. He was a police officer in New Mexico for 18 years in Sandoval County, where this solve was located. He did he spoke to Mccracken because Cheyenne Smith's family was concerned. It sounds like Jamie broke down when he was searching in his area. He went to this ranch where Cheyenne's parents lived, or Cheyenne lived. I don't remember which one. He asked, "Can I use your phone? My car broke down." He saw Cheyenne, fell in love, and that was the day that he to this day has been very attracted, amorous. I don't know what the right word is. Very connected to Cheyenne, though Cheyenne has said she doesn't know him. She never talked to him more than hello. She didn't exchange emails, nothing. A fixation began on that day. Cheyenne's family and her filed a stalking complaint, and he met with Cheyenne. There was no relationship. She didn't actually even remember meeting him, but it was the mom and the grandma that did. He was the man that broke down. Years earlier, it was a flat tire. I already went over that. He did not know. She did not know him. No phone numbers were exchanged. He took it to his supervisor, which reviews all trespassing orders, and they gave a temporary order to say he is no longer allowed to be on the property ever, or 20 years or 40 years. I don't remember which. He was staying in a motel. He said he went to Mccracken's hotel, knocked on it. It was very strange because he answered the door in just boxers. The whole family and Cheyenne, they did not know Mccracken, they stated. He reviewed that. He told the officer, though, she was important for information to the Forrest Fenn case that he was a part of. He stated that she was his girlfriend, Mccracken and Cheyenne, and he was just trying to keep her safe from Forrest Fenn. Cheyenne, he explained Cheyenne felt that she was being stalked by him and she needed protection. They recorded the interview, and he had said he was not stalking her. And Mccracken said he was not, he denied stalking her. And then they produced the trespass order. There was an objection to it, which was overruled based on the counterclaim. Mccracken said, I should not be on trial here. And they said Carl's position was, Summer's position was, if you had all this information and you were still saying Forrest was stalking and raping this woman, you should not have said that, and you're using this process, and that's why we're going to win on our counterclaim. So he won it. Everything got into evidence. He was told not to continue to have any further contact, but he said he needed to contact her because she had information on the Forrest Fenn hunt. She told the officer she didn't even know Forrest Fenn or the hunt. They told him if he was caught on the premises, he would go to jail. He was then arrested because he was sending her letters. And after the 12th letter, they talked to the court and they made it a harassment order. And they went to his hotel and he was arrested, admitted, and put in jail for either trespass or stalking. I don't remember which one. At the time of the arrest, he continued to say he was insisting that the case is worth millions of dollars and he needed to obtain evidence that Cheyenne had. There was 7 reports that were admitted. There was objections to it. I'm not even going to go into the objections because everything was admitted. And there was photos of each letter. There was police reports, arrest records that were provided. The judge was very clear. This might not be prevalent to your case about your clues, but it is important to the case. He's trying 2 cases. One is the case for, does he deserve the chest or the millions? And the second is the Forrest Fenn estate is countersuing for punitive damages, etc. And that is where all of this comes in, because this goes into his intent. So he then put together a user ID and password on Harry's site. A little bit comical. They went into what is Harry's site. He's called Harry Fool. And basically that was going to be his secret way to have communications. Cheyenne decided by the officer's request, she said, I will never go on that site. I want nothing to do with this. And the officer said, can I have the username and sign on and pretend that, and review the notes that he's giving you? And she said yes. So he called her the Mountain Lion. They confirmed anytime Mountain Lion was up on Harry's site, it was Cheyenne. And there were many of those messages that he was sending her. He sent her $300 cash, so for her to get a passport to be able to move back to the UK with him. She admitted the $300 into evidence and did not take it. This is where, well, he got into, this was the scheme. I need the evidence from you to be able to get millions from Forrest. I'm going for a quick settlement. The priority of ours is not for Forrest to go to jail. We need to get money. Forrest is alive, stalking, spying on Mccracken. And there was an application for a U.S. passport because he was trying to get her to go overseas with him. Anything for me, Mike, before I go into the next part?
No, yeah. I think you're emotionally involved because you're there, but I don't think the rest of us really care. But it's just my opinion.
We can turn it off if you want. If no one cares, I'm fine not going through 30 more. But if you don't care and nobody cares.
Well, it's the emails are the only important thing that came out of it is the emails between Jack and Forrest. The craziness of Mccracken's case. I mean, why does anybody? It's crazy. You know what I mean? Why? I guess.
Yeah. Why does Zoe care and why does Shiloh care and why do people that care about the family?
So
maybe.
That's why I'm saying you're there and you're with the family. I understand why you're involved in it and you're involved. I guess you could say.
I don't have any problem signing off or
trying to understand
over or whatever.
Trying to understand how Carl's fighting it, I guess, could be interesting from a.
You watched why did you care about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case? You watched the entire thing. And you thought it was fun to review those court documents, but you don't think this is fun. I don't understand.
It's interesting if you see it. If I could see Mccracken going through this, that would be interesting. But just to hear the summary.
Okay. I don't have any problem stopping.
It's crazy stuff. That's all.
Yeah.
If you want to Indiana Jones, just keep going. But
it's cool. Nope. I'm good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Because I'm sure yeah, I mean, Laurel's saying they care. So, yeah, keep going. It's just, but for me, I don't have any questions or anything. Okay. Mike is whack. So, keep going. Go through the rest of it. We want the whole story.
I just know that by the end of this, Toby doesn't think 9 Mile Hole. There's a reporter there that will probably, I just thought people wanted to hear the ending of this and then move on. But if you're just let's just shut it down and talk about some $500 hunt that we'll put 400 hours into. And that's super fun. Like
but I get something out of that. So in other words, when this thing's thrown out, it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? I don't have a invested interest in this. I know the family does. I get it. It's interesting to know about 9 Mile Hole, but I don't care about Mccracken's crazy theories because they're crazy. It doesn't matter what. To me, it's not interesting, but that's me. I could be wrong. So Marilyn says, I care. Fool says, this is fascinating, truly. It's just, I mean, I don't know. The delusional searchers, I'm not worried about their solve because they're delusional.
I'm not worried about those solves. I'm worried about the final piece, which was, were you not aware I was coming out here for the hearing?
Yeah. And go. I wouldn't have, but that's me. We're just different like that. That's all.
Oh, Minotaur, it's not a fight in the scheme of things. The treasure hunt's over. No, but I feel like we want to bring the treasure hunt community closure. You can zip through any piece that you want, but I just thought it was important to be thorough and not just self-select the things that Mike want to hear, the things that Kpro wants to hear. I was going to put it all out there and not self-select the things that I thought was important. Like the part that Zoe cried, that was emotional to me. And maybe the emotion, who cares? We're not emotional. Like, let's just get through to 9 Mile Hole is all you care about. But what if it's not about, what if it was El Vado to some people and they want to hear that part? Like, okay.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. But no, if you're asking me, no, to me, it's not. But you're not doing this for me. You're doing it for everybody that watches the show. So go ahead.
Right. So my question was, hey, is there anything you have or from the chat? That didn't mean.
Oh, no. Oh. I mean, I haven't seen too many questions come through other than just the normal stuff of, the normal stuff. But yeah, most everybody in the chat is saying keep going. So yeah. Go ahead.
So holy for me, tonight it's over. And you can understand why once I go through this, or I'll just not go through it. And hey, you have plenty of other channels to look at, and they have some exciting content going on. I don't care. Like, if you don't care and you have the pulse of the people, like everybody was saying how lovely you are here, I don't have any problem.
Oh, that's your call. If you want to keep going, keep going. If you don't. I'm not telling you what to do. The people want you to keep going. A lot of people in chat want you to keep going. So that's up to you.
Okay. So Mike, let's not have your opinions anymore. Let's do the opinions of the chat room yeah. So, okay. So let's see. He was arrested. And then you're going to see somebody walk by. Sorry, I have a little friend here. Let's see. After this arrest, what happened? He continued to send letters, and he wanted Patricia. He now started contacting the mother. They filed another complaint. He then had a restraining order. The restraining order was put into evidence. He was given a no contact order until 2041, and though he put her as a witness and stated that she was raped by Forrest Fenn, and he said, you knew she wasn't going to be here. So how can you say when she has a restraining order that you actually thought, because up until yesterday, you were trying to extort the family, saying she was going to be here, and you wanted $5 to $10 million to do so. And that's going to get to the counterclaim in a little bit. And this is where it got a little uncomfortable, because Mccracken then did his cross. And he said, well, I never went to her house after that day, correct? And he said, right, but there was a no contact order. It wasn't just trespassing. And he said, right, but when I gave Cheyenne Smith the sign-on to Harry's, she wrote me and said, on Valentine's Day, I am coming with a heart, and wanted to know when Mccracken was going to be in New Mexico. And he said, why would she contact me and say that if that wasn't the case? He said, no, I sent you that. She has never been on Harry's. And I sent you that because I was trying to find out when you would be in New Mexico to arrest you again. It took a few times for him to hear that. He, at that point, believed it was this woman. And the officer was very clear. She has never signed on to your account. That was me. I was trying to get information of when you were going to be in New Mexico. And it was a little tough to watch. The second arrest, the charges were dropped due to some technical timing of a 6-month rule. There wasn't enough time to refile. So he actually did not go to jail the second time. So the judge, that was basically it. The officer left. Then Mccracken took the stand again. He then began going through the emails to Forrest Fenn, the pictures of the rabbit holes, the duct taping. The email to Forrest actually said, it might be the treasure chest or it might be a rock. And he's like, how did you think it was the treasure chest later when all you had was that picture? He said it was because he put it through a filter. He said, again, Forrest was 192 pounds and 6 feet tall, so he was more slender. Only slender people and children would be able to get it. He said he had short arms. That's why he couldn't reach it, and only people with long arms could actually reach it. He didn't want to get trapped. He was claustrophobic. And he had sent thousands and thousands of emails to Forrest. Most of the emails came after the death, or thousands of emails came after his death. He kept emailing and kept searching for a considerable amount of time. I'll try to zip through because I don't want to bore Mike. He did have other aliases. He did write both Dale and Stephanie. Dale did respond. We did get a 15-minute break in there. I'm not sure why. I keep going. I'm trying to get to the part that Mike wants. He said that you said you were financially bankrupt, but you were only in the hunt 1 month. At that point, when you said that, what was your major expenses? He had lost his job because of his obsession with trying to find the chest. There was a lot of discussion about what was the motive that Dale said, Forrest put it out there to be found. What is the reason that he believed Forrest was moving it? And he said it was because he was getting notoriety. He did say it was possible that it wasn't the treasure chest in this brown blob. He said he thinks that Forrest is alive, and this is when he said, but you saw the death certificate in Mrs. Old's deposition that she saw her father's dead body. Zoe was crying at that time, and he still said, no, I do not think Forrest is dead. There was no hard evidence. There was no videos. There was only his conjecture. I guess I took notes for no reason, but I'll keep going. Maybe I won't take notes tomorrow.
Well, the other thing is, none of the Mccracken stuff makes any sense. I guess that's the problem I have with why it's in the trial. Like, why are they having a trial over this? Like, Carl, it seems to me, proved that Forrest died, and Jamie just says, yeah, I don't believe that. Well, it doesn't matter what you believe. It's what you can prove, right? So I just don't understand why it even went to trial. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what the judge says on the verdict, which will be tomorrow, or was it going to be later?
Maybe we can just do that, or let's just put like a one sentence, like dismissed, and then we're done. We're good.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go through the rest of tonight. You can sign off if you want. I'm going over the rest of tonight, and then I'll be done tomorrow if that's what you want. It's your channel, so whatever you want is fine with me. So he went into the poem is so vague, so many people's solutions, and he kind of pointed to the searcher side. And Mccracken said, yeah, but mine is better. His solve is better. He had no mental gymnastics. But then there was 2 or 3 different contradictions that he made in his court hearing versus what he said in the deposition. So then this is the part that Mike might be interested in. He said, okay, let's move into Jack's emails. There was 48 of them submitted to the court. I'm not going to read all 48 of them because some of them were just, I'm searching. Here's when he established that he was a searcher, which was in 2018. He then said, I believe the solve is at 9 Mile Hole. All 9 clues and indulgence is at 9 Mile Hole. I waited over the whole place. I have done everything. This is due to it being your special spot. They did admit into evidence that Sarah Davis is the head ranger in Yellowstone. Mr. Stoof thinks it is at 9 Mile Hole by this email. This is the special spot by the 9 Mile Hole connection. Mr. Mccracken's spot did not seem special. He said, can you tell us where it's special to Forrest? He said, well, there was trout there and Forrest fished trout. So he thinks anywhere that was called out in the book was not going to be the case. But Forrest also said he liked caves, and this was in a cave. Jack said that, yes, Jack. So these are emails between Jack and Forrest that were admitted into evidence and sworn as official documents of the court. I don't know how they were verified, but they were verified by the court that these were emails between Jack and Forrest. They went over 48 of them. All of them were given to Mccracken in discovery, but 48 of them were highlighted why they believe Jack is the actual finder, and the find was at 9 Mile Hole. So I'm highlighting the emails that you will see in the next 10 days or so, but these are the ones that I highlighted. So the first was 9 Mile Hole, and the 9 clues is where I'm searching for indulgence. I waited over the Madison and I searched that whole place due to the special fishing spot. That's the first one. The book held, the next email is the book held hints. His father, and they actually showed the page of the book where the father actually had a picture at 9 Mile Hole. Stoof discovered 9 Mile Hole was fished by his father. That was another email. Page 3 of the emails, he told Forrest in 2018 that 9 Mile Hole was this special spot, and he was certain that it was there, but he had not found it. In May of 2018, he said he was going into the woods at 9 Mile Hole, and he had been searching that place relentlessly. He said, when Forrest put out, he had a hunch that someone that was going to find it, and then said it was wavering. Jack emailed Forrest and said, don't give up on hunches. I'm still at 9 Mile Hole. Stu then said in another email, I'm sorry I contacted you at your home. This is when he called him. I just found this thing at 9 Mile Hole. This was the rock, the shovel, and the 2 bones left by a cruel searcher. He asked him if he should dig. It was on the left side of the creek across the Madison at 9 Mile Hole. He's happy to share his full solve with him, but should he dig in a national park? Forrest actually responded to him and said, do not dig at a national park. He then said he destroyed the fake blaze, and he did not dig. Page 8 of the emails, Forrest's response to Jack that he believed that this was a bitter searcher. Forrest's response to Jack that he took the items, that it was a bitter searcher, and the fake blaze. And Forrest's response was, where are you? You're in Yellowstone, ? Yeah, that fake blaze actually, and there's a picture of it that you will see later when it gets admitted into court. Jack then emailed Forrest, I found your father's fishing diary. I believe it is at 9 Mile Hole. Jack then made a Christmas card in Christmas of 2019. It was a humorous email. He wrote, the 9 Mile Days of Christmas. I wrote as fast as I can. I won't get this right. 9 lodges a polling, 8 browns a homing, 7 coals a worthing, 6 bears a spraying. I didn't get 5. 4 sagebrush, ? Because there's no sagebrush there. 3 fake blazes a blazing, 2 bones a sitting, and 1 damn chest I can't find in your special spot at 9 Mile Hole.
That's funny.
Okay. So he said, at this point, I have presented you a number of emails. What do you think of these? And Mccracken said these emails are fictitious. And then he turned and let's see, let me skip some stuff. He went into the New Mexico tourism FOIA. Mccracken said that he never watched that video. So he said, well, what do you think? If Jack's solve is at 9 Mile Hole, this is Carl, do you think the New Mexico fishing regulations is either the Pinion Nuts was the correct location was in New Mexico with Pinion Nuts, or he actually was retracting it and it was at 9 Mile Hole? And he said, no, he was just covering his tracks because it was in New Mexico. Here's where he was 2019. Then Carl said, all the communications between Forrest and Jack never varied from 9 Mile Hole in Yellowstone. It was the only location he searched, and it seemed special to Forrest. Now, there wasn't an email attached to that. He just summarized. There was no other location that he ever named to Forrest in all of the emails that they went through. Okay. Exhibit 21, Jack requested a meeting. They went through those emails. He talked about cognitive bias. Mccracken didn't review that, but he's like, they went back and forth with that. In September of 2019, page 29, So in September of 2019, he said the emails dramatically changed from where's the chest at 9 Mile Hole? I can't find the chest at 9 Mile Hole. I can't find the chest at 9 Mile Hole. Oh, and I did skip the Christmas card. I'm trying to skim and I'm not really doing well skimming. He did confirm that there was a Christmas card in 2019 and the picture was at 9 Mile Hole. And he admitted that into evidence. So we will actually see that Christmas card. Sorry, I'm again skimming. We don't want to actually discuss this. Okay. He did say Jack was a paid actor. Zoe's testified he's not. He's never been paid by the estate. And then he went in September, Stoof on the 23rd said, I need to know how you're going to transfer ownership to the finder. Forrest didn't respond on the 24th. Where I search, how are you going to transfer ownership? On the 24th, later that day, I need to know your preference and ownership transition. On the 27th, he said, and then he went through a bunch of other emails and he said, isn't it amazing that he all of a sudden has transitioned? Don't believe that he actually discovered it in September of 2019. And Forrest's response was, don't worry about any of that until you actually find it. Jack's response in the email was, I will alert you then after I find it next search season. And then he gave him a link to, I'm not sure if you've heard of this Reddit name. It's called Condor 2. He gave him a link to the Condor 2 Reddit's post that talks about if this is a contest. And he said, this Reddit poster has discussed how you have not met the legal requirements if this is a contest. Can you please discuss it with your legal counsel? October 8th, I get the sense you hate thinking of these legal things. Is it a trust? Is it a gift? What does that look like? If I tell you the next search season that it's located, I'm going to leave it and I'm going to contact you and get your permission. Carl then said he believes this email implies that Jack had already found the chest in 2019. He then went into and showed to the judge and Mccracken the Christmas card photo that was in 2019. More of the reason that the estate's position is Jack found it in 2019. He said the picture has an X and it is the 9 Mile Hole and the Madison River. Jack then sent him an email that said the day that Mr. Sexton was confirmed as a searcher and died, he believes that someone dying weighs heavy on Forrest. This one weighs heavy on Jack. If when I was at 9 Mile Hole, I would have been smarter earlier, this death could have been prevented. It weighs on you. It is now weighing on me. June 5th, Stoof opened up that he found the treasure chest. He left it just like earlier in the emails, the picture of the treasure chest open. And the pictures were there, and he announced it the following day. He basically did a parody between, if you were the actual finder, look how Forrest responded to you. He basically stopped responding. And with Jack, he responded significantly in many ways. Then they moved into the rape allegations. He said, do you have any evidence that Forrest actually raped Cheyenne? He said, yes. Cheyenne was in a bikini and she turned around and showed her bottom. And that means he was going down on her and he raped her. The entire courtroom gasped at that. We didn't even understand what it meant. Some of the family were crying at that point. And he said, but here are the two affidavits that says from Cheyenne that she doesn't even know who Forrest Fenn is. And he said he thought those were doctored. He didn't know for sure if that was Cheyenne, even though it had been registered with the court and notarized. He thinks Forrest has lied to the court. He's claiming rape. Forrest is still alive. There was a lot of stuff about rape I'm not going to get into. He said he wouldn't move forward and actually out this, but $5 to $10 million is what his payoff would need to be. he would expose Forrest as a rapist, stalker, and harasser if that wasn't paid. He answered yes. This was your leverage to get compensation. Yes. Do you believe it is proper to use the legal system for these allegations? There wasn't really an answer, but the restraining orders say something very different. Did you actually believe that that this woman had been raped, since the restraining orders and trespass orders were against you? He'd even spent time, he was arrested, etc. And then the judge said, how much more do you have? He said, I have about 4 or 5 more exhibits to put in. And he said, and then they have closing argument, okay. And so he said, okay, let's adjourn to 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So that's it.
Okay, well, to be continued tomorrow, I guess. And did you say the judge is going to rule on it tomorrow, or does it like they're done?
This is conjecture, but since there was already a motion to dismiss, I believe at the end of this cross-examination, which will be probably by 9:30 or 10, it'll be quickly. It sounds like there's only 4 more exhibits. Yes, so 9 o'clock tomorrow, we are going back, and after that, they will probably, the estate side will ask for a dismissal. It probably won't happen. I don't know. We're this far. It could be done there. Then the estate gets to call their side. A lot of the family members were there, and I believe some of them will at least be called. Some of them are on the witness list. I don't know who exactly. My assumption would be Zoe and Shiloh, definitely. I don't know who else. And then the judge is going to need to rule. I don't think the judge has to rule immediately. I don't know, though. It doesn't sound like that will occur right away. Or I just don't think he's going to go ruling right now. Again, I don't know. At the end, though, I will say this is the part that there was a little bit of fireworks. I turned to Toby. So it was Toby, Cynthia, me. And I turned to Toby and I said, so now do you finally believe 9 Mile Hole? And he said, absolutely not. And I think Cynthia and I were both pretty shocked. And I said, so all those emails, do you believe with Mccracken, they're just made up? And he goes, unless I see GPS coordinates from Sarah, I don't believe it. Sarah Davis, I don't believe in 9 Mile Hole or Yellowstone. There was some fireworks, and we left. There was, give Toby a break. No, sorry, Jeremy. Give Toby a break. What? People are going to continue this on if we don't use common sense, which is the family. Well, I side on the family, not Mccracken. Jeremy, you might agree with Toby, and Toby agrees with Mccracken, but yeah, whatever. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, I talked about it on the show earlier. Toby will never believe it because Forrest and or Jack were never charged. That's why he cannot wrap his mind around that it was in Yellowstone.
And Mccracken can never believe it because it wasn't his spot. Yes, there are people that unfortunately are out of touch with reality, and it's unfortunate. I don't think all of them are terrible people. I just think some are not in touch with reality.
It has nothing to do with Mccracken, just in general. Toby is like, Forrest would have got charged for doing something illegal, and because he wasn't, he doesn't believe it's true. He does not.
When the estate has said, we believe it's 9 Mile Hole, here's 12 emails that came from Jack about 9 Mile Hole, and it's sworn that these are Jack's emails. So basically, Jack and the estate are both saying 9 Mile Hole. We have a lot of evidence of Condor 9 Mile Hole, but it's still not 9 Mile Hole because of whatever Mccracken or Toby or Jeremy or whoever says. I'm okay with that. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm here to say, I'm done. I wish I ended it a little bit better where we actually went through what I wanted without kind of negativity from even you, Mike, but that's just me.
It's not negative. It's just an opinion. Talking about me. It's not negative. It's just my opinion that, yeah.
You said in a previous video, if that you don't believe 9 Mile Hole, that you're Team Mccracken, that's not really fair. No. After today's evidence, I believe there is so much evidence it's 9 Mile Hole. I don't want to argue. Go on Discord and go on wherever. file lawsuits and now subpoenas between searchers, and you guys do you. Nobody attacks 9 Mile Hole believers. Yeah, they do, but everybody attacks everybody. I don't think, Sammy, I think everybody attacks everybody. I don't think it's just, like it doesn't matter at this point. It's over. I'm glad the family is going to get some peace to it. I think it's, I think most will get we're going to see another, once those emails actually come out of all the things that Jack said, and the estate attorney saying, we believe 9 Mile Hole because of, and they present all this evidence. It doesn't, you can't handle the truth. I'm not saying that you're a hater because you believe in 9 Mile Hole. I'm just saying, I believe it's not just little pieces of evidence. We have the estate and we actually got in the, I had an exchange with, it just ended off in a bad night. And I will say this is a more negative place than I wanted to be, but I wanted to go over all the facts. So everybody had them and can't say, well, you saw the hearing, but you didn't even go over it. So there it is.
Everybody can draw their own conclusion. Some people will never believe 9 Mile Hole, no matter what. Even if Jack came out with it, he's a paid actor, blah, blah, blah. So
I believe that Shiloh is going to hold true to his assertion. So when you have the estate, potentially in the future, Shiloh, emails, Condor, I get it. Some people just don't want, other than seeing the video, Forrest, I don't know what else. Even if Forrest said it, some people have already said Forrest set it up to not, I don't know what else anybody wants. And now I got to hear Carl read line by line and say, is that what this says, Jamie? This email from Jack that says he's searching 9 Mile Hole, searching 9 Mile Hole, waited over 9 Mile Hole, waited over the 9 Mile Hole. I can't find it. He made a freaking song. He made a Christmas card. To me, that's enough. That doesn't mean it's enough for you guys. And I'm okay with that. I wanted to go over it in more detail just to kind of give you the closure that I've gotten. But this isn't like GPS closure. This is real. This isn't invented information. So somebody said earlier, wow, you guys are, you guys were right. It's not about being right. I just seeing today and the family and, it was interesting to me when I knew it was so baseless, and this is my opinion, that there was no factual evidence of Forrest being alive and raping a woman. It still affected the family. And because it affected the family, it really affected me of how hard, my dad passed recently, and it was just, it hit me so much of what more do we want? Where did these emails come from? They were a part of what they call discovery. So before the hearing, Mccracken demanded or asked in the discovery phase, I want all the emails between Jack and Forrest. And he got all the emails between Jack and Forrest. Those were admitted into evidence by penalty of perjury or penalty of the court system if you did not certify them and put them into the court record. Based on that, you don't present let's say there's 300 emails. You don't present all 300. You present those that are most pertinent. Of the 48 that were presented, each of them were presented for a particular reason. 12 of them were presented as the location that Jack found the treasure, which was, in the estate's opinion, 9 Mile Hole. The estate may be wrong. Maybe Forrest family, Forrest lawyers that have seen this video of Forrest, maybe they're all wrong. Maybe Jack was wrong, that Jack was searching at 9 Mile Hole. Maybe Condor was wrong. Maybe all of that is wrong. And it's all invented actors or whatever. But maybe. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not, but more evidence mounted in such a significant way today that, yeah.
Anything about the video with the 9 clues in court?
That was not discussed in court today.
And Jack wasn't there, huh?
Jack was not there. Jack was brought up of, did you know that Sarah Davis, who is the head ranger of Yellowstone, intervened and is not letting Jack say the solve? Do you believe that means 9 Mile or Yellowstone? Do you believe Yellowstone's involved then? And I guess Toby and Mccracken both believe no, but everyone else in the court, it was pretty.
Right. Well, Troy doesn't believe it. I mean, there's certain people that will never, they don't believe it because they'll never believe it. There is no, it's not an evidence thing. They just never believe it. And
well, I think it was on Ben's show. He said, even if I see Forrest going through the night, or Shiloh saying it or something, I won't believe it because of how this ended. I get it because of this last 2 years. I get it. Or I understand maybe the skepticism, but when you have court hearings like this, that means Carl is submitting fraudulent evidence. Zoe is submitting fraudulent evidence. And there's a lot more. I will tell you, I could go on for another 2 hours with the detail that was there. Was Greg Brutal Truth in there? Yeah, he was in there. His girlfriend was in there. They were both very pleasant. He sat in the front row. He was there, I want to say, from the very beginning to about 10:30. When they started showing the Alita movie clips on how each one went to a scrapbook, it was a long process on those hard benches to sit through, and it was about halfway through that he went.
I'm just surprised that the judge lets the court's time be wasted like that. That's what I don't understand. But hey,
I have some thoughts on that, but it's conjecture. But I have some thoughts on that, but again, it's conjecture.
And then Mccracken wins at the end.
Mccracken did post.
That's what I don't get.
Mccracken did post on lunch break, and he did post when he came out that he had a very strong case. Though he is preparing an appeal, he had a very strong case. He thinks the judges, he has met the threshold and all of that. Maybe. I'm not saying it's not the case. I'm just saying what I saw in there. There was a lot of, like, what actual evidence do you have that Forrest is alive and raping a woman?
Zero, right?
No, he had his opinion, and that she wore a bikini.
Right. That's his, yeah, but opinions don't.
And that was where it was like, so do you have a video? Do you have a picture? Do you have a note? Do you have a, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I actually, Holy, I think that is the case. The judge ensuring that there's no chance of a mistrial. I think that, and them getting Mccracken to confess to a criminal activity. So when you think about the threshold in probate court to get punitive damages and lawyers' fees is much lower than extortion. The word extortion and the part of extortion was actually discussed. That's a criminal act. And the word extortion was used quite frequently. I believe there may be something there. I don't understand because he kept saying there were demands all the way up until yesterday, which was Sunday. That because Mccracken said, once I knew Cheyenne wasn't going to testify, I didn't put that in my proceedings. And he's like, right, but you said yesterday that Forrest was raping a woman and you tried to extort $5 to $10 million yesterday. So it seemed like something happened yesterday, meaning Sunday. Something was happening quite, I don't want to say scandalous, but there was quite a bit of activity yesterday.
Well, I'd say McCracken's probably going to have to pay a lot of money at the end of this. Problem is, I don't think he has it. I don't think he has any money. But
why would you think that?
Didn't he say he lost his job and he didn't have food, or was this years ago when he was searching?
That was years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, maybe.
I think Erskine had a process that is being levied of garnishment, and I believe that will be the same process.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they get some money out of it. At least to pay Carl, at least to the family, at least to cover the lawyer fees, if not more.
So I tried to look into, so you can have lawyer's fees. So it's actually Carl's rate and all of his paralegals and all that. Let's just say that's $100,000. The typical punitive damages, if it can be proven, is typically 2 to 3 times the court or the lawyer's fees. So it could be, and that's why that line was open. That wasn't a typo. That line was open of, here's the lawyer's fees. Let's say it's 100,000 and punitive damages. And it could be 50,000, 100, 200, 300. It's how much the judge feels that there was intent to extort, intent to deceive. Now, extortion is a criminal act. So that's going to be there'll be a criminal case if that could be proved. I have no idea where the threshold is, how that works. It would all be, yeah.
Lucky Digger says lawyer fees are paid from the estate. Right, but that's the family's money, the estate. And
right. So lawyers' fees
reimburse them.
So in the Erskine, let's use Erskine as an example. The estate paid along the way, and because it was seen as so frivolous, the judge awarded $100,000. I think it was $280,000. I think it was. They just went after and garnished $100,000 of all the accounts of Erskine. They will do the same process with Mccracken.
Right. And they should. I mean, talk about frivolous.
Right. But that's only if it's considered frivolous. If both of you are going in, and it's like a divorce court, if both of you go in under good faith and you're just saying, we don't agree, judge, help us, that's different than I'm gonna say Forrest is raping someone and give me money, or we're going to court. And now you go to court and you provide absolutely no evidence. Is that, yeah.
The estate still belongs to Forrest and Peggy. Well, it doesn't belong to Forrest. Forrest died. It belongs to Peggy. Or Peggy.
Peggy died. No, Peggy died.
The estate belongs to the family.
Correct. And if it's just a part of a probate hearing, that is the cost that you have, and the estate typically pays. But that's what the countersuit is. The countersuit is saying he intentionally was trying to extort money, and we shouldn't have to pay for someone that is acting so maliciously. And that is what they were doing in this process. Right. But that doesn't mean who pays ultimately. The estate has paid up front. Why do you think Zoe has been so stressed? Why do you think the family has been so stressed? This has been a 2 years process. So a video from Forrest would end all of this. Nope. I already know searchers that have said, sorry, I don't even care if I say Forrest. That means he just was premeditated anymore.
He's just covering up the real location. You're still that's what I'm saying is the people that are delusional are not going to believe any evidence whatsoever.
Yeah. So here's what I anticipate tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the rest of Mccracken's counter. The family, if it's not dismissed, there'll be a motion to dismiss. And if it's not dismissed, the estate side will then present their case. I believe Zoe at a minimum said she was deposed, and perhaps Shiloh's on the witness list. Kelly's on the witness list. I don't think any of the other family is. That's going to be at a minimum. Perhaps there will be more. I mean, I couldn't believe that an officer walked into the court today. And then there might not be a ruling today. I actually don't think or tomorrow. I don't think there will be, but I think that will be imminent. And then in about, I don't know, a few days to 10 days at the most, the court transcript is being verified. And all those exhibits will actually be available in the court document. So I know Troy was saying earlier, I want to see the emails. I do too. So I paid 35 cents a page, and I've paid over $300. So let's, I don't know if Toby's going to continue to look at all the documents and buy all the documents, but it is costly. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages and hundreds of, Mccracken had 88 exhibits. I don't know how many the estate did, because they put them up in like A1 and then B1, 2, 3, etc. So I think the judge was effing Mccracken to make him bankrupt, which I think is wrong, in my opinion. Well, McCracken's an adult free man. I don't know. I understand what you're saying, because I actually posted the day after my dad passed. I said, can we feel sorry a little bit for Mccracken, because he's obviously not well, because how can he be allowed to basically bankrupt himself? And Mccracken's response is, I'm filing a claim against defamation against you, Kpro. And then I went, okay. So unfortunately, Minotaur, you might be opening yourself up to litigation from Mccracken. So.
Okay. Who knew that it was going to come to this? I mean, Forrest probably didn't think any of this was going to happen when he first did it. But
well, it was, okay, I'll give you an interesting one with what Shiloh said. He said, this is like a movie. But this isn't a movie my grandfather watched.
Right. Definitely wasn't a river runs through it. That's true.
Yeah, it just turned. And so my hope is tomorrow, whatever is presented, there isn't such outrageous comments that upset the family. Because remember, this is still, whether it's Forrest or John, though this is someone's father who passed. So it was a hard day. It was a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I was coming out of the elevator when Jamie said, "Are you enjoying the case?" to two of the family members. "It's just taking forever." I had a very, very emotional reaction, and I will apologize to those two family members tomorrow because some words came out of my mouth that were not directed at them. They know that, but Cynthia got me out of there pretty quick because I was ready to really express my thoughts, and that wouldn't have helped. I want to get in the courthouse tomorrow, so but she expressed some very poignant points with Toby. So so anyway,
well, obviously you and Cynthia and Toby have to do a show together. It'd be good to do a count.
That won't happen. That won't happen.
No.
Oh. I actually am okay with different opinions, but yeah, that one. I went on another show, and that made people contact people's families, and we're all supposed to be okay with it now.
It was on our show, and that went okay. It's just
no. And Toby asked about coming on the show, and Cynthia has agreed to come on the show, and I mean, maybe eventually, but we're not going to have too many shows. Like Mike, you won't even let me read half of the stuff that I have because we're over with the Forrest Fenn hunt.
No,
I'm not going to use my remaining time in the Forrest Fenn hunt with very counter logical. Him and Mccracken should go on the same show. They have some of the very similar thoughts. I want to go on with Cynthia. And everybody can have their opinion.
Let's be clear. It's not let you. You asked my opinion. I gave you my opinion. That's all. Nobody's letting you do anything. You can do what you want. Yeah, Toby presents his opinions in a pompous manner. In my opinion, the fool says.
But that's what a lot of people say about me. Is you're too confident when you say something. Why did you put exclamations? That really upset me, and now I need to go through a year of hate videos and not have a life and lose my job because of it. Well, okay, like I don't know. I'm spent right now. And now I asked Cynthia to come on tonight, and she is so. I think we're both just drained. It's been so emotional, right. And we're talking about someone who passed, and that was special to us. Forrest had 90 years, and this was the last 10 years, but there's just a lot. So,
and that's why I said that with you being there and sitting through the trial, you're emotionally invested. The rest of us weren't there. It's different for the rest of us.
Yeah, but here was the hard part for me. There were 4 of us taking notes. Mm-hmm. I know Cynthia's notes were about 10 pages. I was just looking around. I took really detailed notes because I wanted you guys to have that level of detail, but that did not match with Mike's expectations of what we care about as a community. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay. We can move on. And when you talk about the big block of code, I'll sign off. We're
exactly. Good. It's just a difference of opinion. That's all. Now, if the trial would have been live streamed, I would have watched it.
But if I went on a Beacon Star show and you started talking about the big block of code, I'd be like, okay, because that's Beacon Star. When I start talking about the Forrest Fenn probate case during the Forrest Fenn probate case show, I thought it wasn't off topic or something that we cared about, but that's just me.
Well, it's not that it's off topic. I thought you asked my opinion. That's all.
No, I said, is there anything from you or the room?
And I said, I don't have anything because I'm not worried about Mccracken, his theory or whatever you call it, his case. So, yeah. All right. Well, there it is, everybody. Dark says I was on Kpro's corner once. Dark. Out of nowhere.
You know what, Dark? I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad to see you here. This is kind of we'll wrap up. I'm already preparing my own tribute farewell. I am not a coffee drinker, but I will get a Diet Coke. Thank you, the fool.
Thanks, fool.
It's just kind of an up and down. So, there's a couple panels that I've promised some people that I want to do. How does Mccracken's testimony help anyone? So Peter, for me, it laid the foundation of the rest of the court case. So if you're like Mike that watched every single minute of the Amber Heard case, and he's really into that. Though you weren't able to be in the courtroom, I thought I could bring you at least that back and forth and those pieces of it. But
when you watch,
to Mike, it's different. And since this is Mike's channel, that was stopped. And I stopped. I did what you said.
Well, it's just like I never watch any of the legal people talk about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing either. I see it live as it's happening, but that's about it. So anyway, well, we allowed Kpro to come on. And I guess we'll probably go live tomorrow to hear the rest of it.
Where to go? You didn't miss anything. There was some emails from Jack that's 9 Mile Hole, but those were just emails that I don't have exact pictures of, so they don't really matter. So no, there wasn't a lot tonight.
Just the delusions of a searcher, which why it's in court is the question. But anyway, we'll see how it plays out.
Trey, I believe, this is an opinion of mine, I think Forrest had some inkling of what was going on with Jack. That's my opinion. And that he was over with all of the stuff that was happening.
Oh, see, I took Trey's question as Forrest is going, this guy's in the right area. Why can't he find it? Like, there's a problem. Like,
oh, I think he thought, like the estate said, don't you think this shows that Jack found it in September of 19? I think Jack found it in September of 19, and he wouldn't go pick it up, and searchers were dying, and so he decided, I don't want to do this anymore. If people are going to die when this guy won't pick it up because he wants the tax thing and he's going to Puerto Rico and we have all that as actual evidence. There was no proof provided today between Jack and Forrest emails saying that, but I think that's what happened. If I were to say it now, I still have some questions. Oh, I didn't say this because I had to skim over 50 pages of my notes. It was asserted in court that because Jamie was threatening to sue and he was sending thousands of emails, you moved it. The reason that Forrest put in that press release, it was in its location and I never moved it, was not because of the auction site. It was because of Mccracken. Isn't that interesting?
Somebody that claims he moved it. Yeah, I got you.
Because Forrest knew, I believe, Forrest knew eventually this was going to get to court with Jamie. That's the reason he explicitly said it, because if he dies and he didn't say it, it wasn't because of the auction site. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Maybe Mama Q.
Maybe it's court because the judge is going to make an example out of Mccracken. So the judge can't make an example out of him unless he was allowed to be there. There was never a motion to dismiss by the estate. The appeals process, Toby has said there's no such thing as the appeal process, but I was able to get some confirmation today when I was at the hearing, and Jamie has already said he's going to file an appeal. So unless Toby has changed the New Mexico probate law that there's no longer appeals allowed, and maybe that's the case, there is going to be an appeal that Jamie will. So if Jamie makes it based on today's hearing, that is so obvious in my opinion. Carl, yes, Carl may have made an example, letting one through, but I just don't know enough. It's all going to be. It's all, I don't know.
All right, everybody. Well, everybody's going to bed over here, so you need some sleep, Kpro. You got to be back there at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
9.
All right. Yeah, and I got to be on the system at 7. So good times all the way around. Well, let us know how it goes and what the end result is. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. Good night. Get some sleep, and we'll see how this crazy thing ends soon enough.